Pterosaur sightings reported in South Carolina. This man said people used to report seeing pterodactyls all the time around the border between South Carolina and North Carolina. Later in this video, get details on encounters in Bishopville and Taylors, South Carolina. At least some of those flying creatures may have been the type seen in Cuba in the 1960s and early 1970s. It's called Ropen. On top of the sighting reports you'll see from South Carolina, don't miss the 2 Ropens caught on camera in Raleigh, North Carolina, that are on in this video. Now for South Carolina, near Bishopville. The flying creature had a wingspan of about 10 to 14 feet with no feathers. It was at least 10 feet tall, standing in the middle of the road. About 2 years later, in that same general area of South Carolina, Susan Wooten was driving on Highway 20 when a huge creature flew over both lanes. Susan later drew this sketch. Quote, "It looked as big as any car and had no feathers. Not like a huge crane or egret, but like a humongous bat." She saw that pterosaur in 1986. One lady reported that 3 of her children had seen dinosaur birds, 3 sightings in 3 different years in northern South Carolina. She said, "My first child was 6 at the time. She told me she saw one fly over our car and said it had the triangle tip on the tail." Please excuse this interruption and we'll soon get back to those sightings in South Carolina. But what if this is some type of misunderstanding, of misidentification? Well, look at this video here where I interviewed Jonathan Archer in my own hometown of Murray, Utah, in my living room.
And then when it went to dive down by the tree line, I noticed that there was a long tail with a bulb at the end of it, and I kept double checking to make sure, and I'm like, that has to be a tail.
We now return to northern South Carolina. The mother did not, at first, believe her first child, who told her about a triangle tip on the tail. How could her 6-year-old have seen a pterodactyl? But a few years later, in about 2010, her 4th child reported one had flown over their home in Taylors, South Carolina. The girl was sure, but the mother thought it was probably a crane. Then on September 20th, 2014, the 12-year-old son came running into the house to tell Mom he had just seen an apparent pterodactyl. He was sure it was not a crane. It did not have any feathers. Because of that and his honesty and intelligence, the mother decided to look up sightings. Quote, "I wish I had done this before now. I am definitely keeping my eyes open from now on." In Clinton, South Carolina, an eyewitness described an apparent pterosaur. Quote, "When I was 15 or 16, while at a soccer camp at Presbyterian College in 1994 or 1995, as big as a plane and looked very similar to the sketch created by Susan Wooten. In the Rock Hill area in 2000, an eyewitness said, quote, "It flew over me and my dog and made a terrifying call. We ran like lightning back to camp." Cynthia Lee had just gotten onto a city bus in Raleigh, North Carolina, when she saw 2 pterodactyls flying in the opposite direction the bus was going. She got out her cell and started recording and noticed that a bird was chasing one of the 2 flying creatures. Of course, this video footage is of poor quality, but Miss Lee had another sighting and clearly saw that this kind of flying creature is not a bird. Some people call it Ropen, which is a word from Papua New Guinea. Cynthia's report of a type of modern pterosaur was published in local newspapers, and one is the 2nd largest newspaper in North Carolina.